Oh, right, boys. Today we'll be making a tier list of all the Divide and Conquer factions. Um, as someone who's played a lot of the Medieval 2 mod Divide and Conquer, which is just, Lord of the Rings, but Total War, um, I can say that I have a very well-informed opinion on this. Um, and this will be entirely based on how well each faction is designed, not how fun they are to play, because if it was just how fun they are to play, well, congratulations, then you just have everyone on the bottom and, like, three of them up here. Because I swear to God, playing as half these factions is AIDS. Um, but this is how well they're designed. So, like, how, uh, are they balanced? Are they fun to play as part of it? So balance, fun to play. How fair are they? Um, is it absolute cancer to play against them in a bad way? Like you just don't understand what the fuck is going on. So, like, a good example of it kind of making sense would be, let's say, Mordor. It makes sense that they'd be cancer to kill, but sometimes, for some fucking reason, the dwarves just never go away in some campaign. That's bad type of cancer. Um, so yeah, but those are basically the criteria. How fair, how fun, how balanced is it in the game, and also overall, how much does it make sense? Because this is not like um an equal starting position for everyone. You know, uh, some factions should be weaker and stronger than others. With that being said, let's get off to a good start with what I believe. Oh, by the way, the tiers I'll be going over are perfectly designed, great design, good design with some flaws, neither good nor bad, poor design, and what the fuck were they thinking? There's also non-playable factions, so that'll be from turn one. So, Reunited Kingdom, and I believe this is the Dark Lord. Both of them are non-playable, pretty self-explanatory. Let's get to the real factions. I'm going to start off with what I believe is the only perfectly designed faction. That's the Ardenheim. They are so fun because you can just choose whatever the hell you want to do. You can either be very boring and go to Umbar, or you can be interesting and do something else with your life. No, but the fun thing with Ardenheim, you can settle anything, you can roleplay, you can play however you want to play. And really, there's no right way to play this faction. It doesn't feel like there's a particular wrong way to settle. You can just have easier and harder conditions. I think the funniest way is you just absolutely declare war on everybody, no allies. Just walk right into Osgiliath, slam your cock on the table, and declare war on both Gondor and Mordor. Alright, that's the only perfectly designed faction. Let's get on to the great designs, and we're gonna have we're gonna go this by culture group, so we're gonna Numenorians first. Next up, Gondor is a great design. Perfectly well designed faction. I think that they absolutely um they just encompass like all the aspects that make Divide and Conquer fun. They have a wide roster. They have a large amount of detail. They have decent scripts as well with the Palantir. Um, and it's a challenging campaign, but it's a fun kind of challenging. It doesn't feel like you're being beat down. You can make conquests. You just have to make your choices correct, especially in the Eastern Front. In the West, you'll be fine, regardless. Like, there's no way Enedwaith is coming for you. And even if Isengard does come for you, it's like there'll be like two armies, maybe, and you can lose some settlements over there. It doesn't matter that much. Sorry, I'm feeling a bit sick right now. Yeah, overall, Gondor, just a great design. Now we're going to move on to the next faction in the Numenorian culture group, which is Dol Amroth. Dol Amroth is actually... I just played my first campaign as them today, and I think it's good design with some flaws. The main problem I see with Dol Amroth is that like it's just Gondor, but in Harondor. It's like you're just gonna be doing the same thing as Gondor, which is fighting bad guys. And the scripts are kind of, just similar to Gondor in a way. I do think that they're your own unique unit rosters, and having some similar rosters to Gondor, it does make it pretty fun. But seeing as how Gondor is in the base game and Dol Amroth is not, I had to give Gondor the benefit of the doubt. Um, but overall, it's a well designed faction. Dol Amroth is but it's not particularly hard. It's not entirely fun. The fun thing about it is you do start with ships, which means that you can easily just walk right on down to Umbar and just absolutely wreak havoc if you want to, which would be really funny. And actually, I might do that the next time I play as them, because I had fun. I just don't think that it's particularly great design. It's good. It's got flaws, but it's just not bad. It's all not all that. Now the final one in the Numenorian culture group, it's the Northern Dunedain, and I don't know where I should put these guys, because I originally had them in great design, but thinking about it more and more, their scripts are amazing, and being able to reform the reunited kingdom, which I think Gondor technically can do, but I don't. I'm not like I haven't. It's so impossible to actually do that in a reasonable amount of time. I just don't have that kind of time. Uh and so wait, that's not the reunited kingdom. I'm an idiot. That's Dale. They didn't have the reunited kingdom. Okay. Ignore me. I'm an idiot. Um uh no, but overall just kind of it- it's just so cancerous to play against some of the other factions in your region, and I think the settlements around you are so unfun to try to defend that the design is almost like it's almost not great. But I think I will give it the benefit of the doubt. I think it does have a great design. The Gaul like the Aragorn script is awesome. Getting the King of the Dead is cool. Reunited Kingdom, fucking fantastic. And so is the Beacon of Hope. I really like that as well. But it's just the unit rosters are kind of annoying to have to go through, because you need to get all these different regions to actually be able to get some of these units. Like, it just takes forever to actually be able to get Arthedain units, because you have to conquer either Fornost, which you're never going to hold, unless you're some kind of god and have amazing allies, or you're just going to have to ignore Fornost entirely and just go down south to Cardolan, to get your Cardolan units. But again, that's like minor gripes. It's just like the way I play it. I don't remember if they still get Gandalf in this version. Like, I played so much of the Dunedain that I don't remember what they get in version 5. Um, but honestly, I don't care if they still do, because I think they still do. I don't really know why they'd remove that. But with the barracks event also being removed, it does mean that it's easier to prioritize getting some of your better troops out there earlier on, and a lot of the unit roster is really cool. I really like it. But yeah, it's a great design. It's a balanced faction as well. They're kind of easy to destroy, um, as when the AI controls them, just because the AI doesn't know what to do as much. The AI is not good at using money, all particularly unless it gets a ton. Um, but then again, it's like it's only easy to destroy if you come in there as like the Ardenheim, or if you come down as the most broken faction in the game, which is gonna I'm teasing to that, but they're gonna go and what the fuck are you thinking? When we get to them. Um, yeah, they're not a super easy faction to destroy always, unless you have particularly good troops. But they're also like not super hard. They're pretty fair to play against. They're pretty fun to play as. They don't feel too broken. And the scripts are very good. I should make that point. The scripts are going to be accounted for in terms of rankings. Okay, for the next group, we have. Sorry. Right, the next culture group, we're gonna go over the Northmen next. We're gonna start with Rohan. I like the Rohirric script. I think that Rohan would be a great design if cavalry was not broken in the base game, because Rohan has great roster, like an amazing roster. Um, but it's just too OP. You can just bum rush Isengard and get them, like, kill them in like 5 turns. You can just destroy Isengard in like 5 turns. It's not even funny. Um, and it's just really easy to wipe out your main opponent, and from there it's just a smooth sailing. But whenever you play against Rohan, it's super easy to destroy him, just because the AI does not prioritize building cavalry as much. But I do like that they did limit some of your units. Like, you do still have problems, such as like Theoden not being able to move. That's a good script. Grima Wormtongue like poisoning his mind. But overall, it's just they're a little too broken to really be a great design. Dol Amroth to an extent is also just a little bit broken, just because of how fast they can expand and how easily they can just march on down to Umbar and absolutely destroy the Ardenheim. Just gain naval supremacy. It's kind of ridiculous, but the Rohirrim are broken in a different way. They're broken if you have more than like 100 hours on Medieval 2. You just instantly will steamroll Isengard. Anyway, the next faction in the Northman group that I will be ranking is Dorwinion. Love this faction. It is a very well designed faction. I think the choice between the Avari elves and having just like staying with men, it's a great choice. Great script. Goes into great design. They have a challenging opponent. Rune is hard to destroy. A lot of the evil factions are, but some are more cancerous to destroy than others. Rune never feels like it's too much AIDS. Because you also will have the dwarves coming down and probably helping you out, and you can probably get an alliance with them. And you have a decent amount of Rovanion to go and to expand to. And as long as you prioritize taking out Rune after you get a few rebel settlements under your belt, it should be a playable campaign for you, a pretty fun one, just to, see your all your dreams come true. It's a great design faction, great unit roster. I like the wine motif. I thought that's really fun. So overall, I have no gripes with Dorwinion. It's a great design. Right. I lied when I said there's only one perfectly designed faction. There's two. But we'll get to the second one later, as it's in a different culture group. Next is Dale. I've not played a ton as Dale. They have a good design. I think like they're just broken though. If you just sit all of your guys in a fort for like the first 20 turns, and there's no consequences to doing that because it's not like Rune is. You're in a pretty safe position. Maybe Dol Guldur will have like one army that might come to try to wipe you out, but other than that, you're in a pretty safe position as the Kingdom of Dale. And you can just hold on for maybe 10 turns with armies in a fort, making some money. Boom, your financial situation's now sorted out. You can go and conquer some stuff. It's kind of crazy. But it's a well-designed faction. I'm not familiar with the scripts as well. I'm putting them in good design because I don't really ever have a complaint about playing against them. But I don't really ever have a complaint when I'm playing as them. I don't, it's not something that I totally spend a ton of time. I probably should as well. I've the times that I've played as them, like maybe first 50, 60 turns, I've enjoyed it, but it's just not been totally memorable. Yeah, they're a good design. They're a little broken, but it's not to the point where you can literally just be done in like 5 turns. Like, you can just make your first opening moves and it's over. Alright, the last Northman faction. Have we gone over them all? There's a fourth one. Oh yeah, Anduin. Anduin's like neither good nor bad design. I find their campaign to be rather boring. Actually not boring, but monotonous. I should say monotonous. It's not boring because you're constantly having to fight everyone, but it's monotonous in that people that you're fighting are just throwing. You're either getting thrown elite orcs in the north, or you're getting thrown shitty orcs in the south, and it's monotonous because you just end up basically with near the same number of territories as you started with by turn 50. By turn 50, you will have like probably nearly like 7, 10 maybe territories, just because you're getting raided the hell out of up north by by Gundabad, and you're just getting the hordes of hell thrown upon you in the south by Dol Guldur. And until the Woodland Realm and Khazad-dûm, sometimes they have their shit together, but until the Woodland Realm and like Erebor really get their shit together, and sometimes Lothlorien, you're just fucked for like the first 50 turns. It's just a monotonous campaign. And eventually, once you get out of that lock, congratulations, all your units are irrelevant, and you're just dog shit. The faction is so horrible in the late game that it's just not funny. The only good unit you have is with skin changers, and as soon as you come into contact with like runic archers, if you ever get that far, as soon as you come into contact with like elite goblin crossbows, you're so dead. It's not funny. Yeah, it's just a kind of a dumb campaign to play as. It's hard, but it's not the fun kind of hard where you're challenged by financial or even some military. It's just aids, because you're just doing the same thing over and over again, because you're just going to be conquering the same settlement in the north like 4 or 5 times, and that's going to lose all of its value over time. And you're just going to be reconquering the same settlement in the south like 5 or 6 times. First 50 turns, back and forth. You do nothing. 50 turns over, your whole unit roster is irrelevant. I wish they would make this faction a little less hard to play, or give it like maybe like an extra starting army in the beginning. But then again, I mean, like that would also mean it's just they're so close to being overtuned in the beginning, because they have a lot of territory, which means they have quite a few starting armies. And if they were able to like pull it against one faction like the Goblins of Moria, they're probably going to be able to take out Moria within like the first 30 turns. If they were to give, just a few more units. So again, it's just not a great. I can see why in base game they don't have this faction, but at the same time, I like playing as Beorn, so it's kind of cool, I guess. All right, I think that's all the Northman factions. All right, yeah, we're gonna go to Middlemen now, of which I believe there's only 3. All right, starting off with the best design, in my opinion, great design, Enedwaith. They did the clan thing that they had with Rune and Harad, but they just took it to like make actual sense. Makes a ton of sense with the way that Enedwaith is described in the novels. They're all clansmen, they're all different clans and tribes, so you got to unite them all under your own banner. I like the neutrality. I like that you can like pick which side you want to be on. It's a fun campaign, and it's not like the Vales of Anduin, who are also wildmen, who like cannot do anything. You're not surrounded by enemies. You can actually mop up like 5 or 6 territories in a decent span without incurring anyone's wrath. You have all of Cardolan just to go over and take. You can cross the river, and maybe you can get even an alliance with Dunland, and you could even go so far as to declare war on Gondor and have a decent time there. You can play that campaign, however you want. I think they were a little better in the earlier. I can't say that. If they were like this in the earlier versions of the game, I think it would have been a little better. But I think the way they are now is perfectly fine. It's a great design, nearly perfect. I have no gripes with it. Their unit roster is also pretty fun. I like the Javelin theme. And you can actually use it when it's relevant, unlike Anduin's roster. Now, up next, their neighbor, and the faction that I constantly forget exists besides Dale, Dunland. Neither good nor bad. It's just boring. You can do whatever the hell you want, but that also means you're just doing boring things. You're a little. Actually, I'm gonna put them in poor design. I can't remember any of the fucking scripts from this faction, and I'm not gonna go look them up. It's just boring. I don't enjoy you play all the. There's no challenge to it at all. Because you have a secure, very strong neighbor to your south, and you have a very weak neighbor that you can easily ally. to your west. Then you just go and beat up on the rest of the on all of Eriador. It's like you're the 1-2 punch with Angmar, who's also not very well designed. In Eriador, and you just make it unfun. It's like, well, you can't actually kill your real enemy. You can't ever go into Rohan, really, because then you don't have military access starting in the game. I don't think. You might actually have it, but still, you're not playing like Dunland how really they want to be, how they really should be played, which is going and killing Rohan. No, you're going and killing the Shire, which like makes no sense. And your unit roster is like not great, but it's super OP compared to like the homeless men that you're fighting. All right. Speaking of the Shire, we have Breeland in the Shire. I think they're just known as Breeland now. They're a good design. I enjoy playing as them. They have a pretty weak roster overall. At least the Hobbit units are, it's a weak spot in the roster, and that's what you're going to be fighting a decent amount with in early game. But the Breeland units, especially the Wandering units that you get, and even like with a script of allying with the Dunedain or doing mercenaries and stuff, um, it's actually kind of fun. Weirdly enough, it's fun to have a sort of weaker faction, but you're kind of surrounded by your stronger neighbor, so you can go west and take a few of those territories. You can expand decently into rebel areas, which is, in my opinion, a part of Medieval 2 that needs to be preserved more, which is expanding in, like, when they do a remaster, there needs to be more rebel territories. There needs to be rebel territories in general. Just because I think Medieval 2 is like made, or it's kind of, rebel expansion is a big part of the game, Medieval 2. It's not like there are all these weak factions of like in Attila and Rome that you can just easily pick on and destroy. Medieval 2, the rebels are kind of like, they're supposed to represent that. But I like the expansion that they get with expanding into rebel territories. It's something, it's part of Medieval 2, of Med 2 that I enjoy. And I think that overall they just did it well with this faction. I think that I don't really have too many complaints. I guess my one complaint is that they actually, it's a stupid complaint. It's that they removed East Farthing as a territory because they wanted to add a different territory. It's like, well, we have North Farthing, South Farthing, and West Farthing, but we got rid of the East Farthing. That's kind of dumb. It just doesn't make sense. That's kind of my gripe with it. But that was removed like way back at 4.5 or something. I don't remember. It's been a while. Yeah, it's a good faction. Just kind of boring. Yeah, it's a good faction. I guess it's kind of weak, and you get my point. It's not super replayable, not super fun. It is fun, but it's not all of the fun. Just because your units are just kind of, you'll see eventually that they're just not great. All right, enough with that rambling. Let's go into the last, like, second to last small factions, and the ones that I've played least as. Not ever completed a Lothlorien campaign, and I don't remember their scripts, so I'm gonna look like an idiot if I place them wrong. But I mean, they're good. But I'd argue that these two are better for the sheer reason that with Lothlorien, if you have like 5 IQ, you can end that campaign in 5 minutes. You just walk your ass over to like Moria. You walk your ass over to Dol Guldur, and you just destroy them with your armies. You just buy a bunch of nice starting armies, and just fucking kill them. Because from what I remember, you get a decent amount of units. Now, granted, when Isengard comes in, it's a bit harder, but you can end the hard part of that campaign and just get yourself an alliance with the Anduin, and they're likely to honor that one. You can be done with the campaign in 5 minutes. It's good. I think it's a decent take, but maybe I'm stupid. All right, Woodland Realm is great design because you actually have a hard opponent to fight. And I know I just shit on them with Lothlorien, but the difference is that you're so much farther from Dol Guldur that you cannot just go in and just take that capital. You cannot go in and just take that really good settlement. You have to fight your way down through Mirkwood, and then eventually you're gonna have to deal with the snow orcs of Gundabad, because God knows they're a difficult faction to fight. And it's a difficult campaign, but it's accomplishable. It's fun. It's achievable. All right. Now, the High Elves. I should not need to explain this. They are a great faction. Greatly designed faction. Because like when it used to be like Mithlond, and then you'd have Rivendell, everyone's like, well, why don't you just combine them? And combining them was the right choice. Even though you have like that distance to capital penalty, you're still a decently designed faction. You can still take on the goblins no problem. The goblins of Moria. And even if Ered Luin turns, you can pretty easily take them down. But the design the way it's greatly designed is that you have to be competent militarily in order to succeed. You have to be smart. You have to make good choices. You can't be a moron just like dicking around in the battlefield or clicking auto resolve in order to win. You have to have better you have the better troops. Now you have to go onto the battle map and win it yourself. That's why I think they're a great design. It promotes like actually knowing how to fight in Medieval 2. Without cavalry, may I add. And it promotes how to use your archers. Alright. Going into the last like small faction area. Well, I guess whatever. I keep on saying that, but even though it doesn't matter. Perfectly designed faction. They got the horde things right with the dwarves. Well, they got most of the dwarf factions right, but they got the horde mechanics right in Divide and Conquer. I think that both of the horde factions, great. They're just awesome. I couldn't ask for anything better. But Khazad-dûm's been in forever. The Ardunim are just awesome. The way you can just settle anywhere. They're the complete antithesis of each other. Because Ardunim, you can start wherever. You can start wherever you want. But the Khazad-dûm, you have to start in Khazad-dûm and then expand out that way. It's the complete reverse. As a horde faction, you can make choices like which road to take, and both of them, or either choice is good. But I'd recommend the Anduin path, because one, maybe Khazad-dûm will be a little more garrisoned, but if you take the Vale route, you're gonna lose fewer troops. You're actually gonna gain more troops, and you're gonna have more money by the end, because you're not being taxed or you're not being charged while you're a horde faction homeless. But yeah, overall Khazad-dûm, fun faction. And you can actually accomplish the goals. You can even choose to ignore the Balrog, which is a mechanic I both like and hate. Because if you can't handle the Balrog on your computer, the game isn't forcing you like to crash or to die. And two, I like it because you can choose if you want to fight the menace. You can choose if you want to fight this guy. It's a good part of choice that I think Divide and Conquer is kind of about like the choices that you make. All right, other Dwarven factions. I think Erebor's only good design with some flaws. I think its major flaw is lack of script. I know they got the Dwarven holding script, but who gives a fuck about that? Genuine question. Who cares? I don't. The script's kind of boring. The Dwarven like this one, there's nothing really you're working towards as a goal. You're just trying to kill, kill, kill. Which for a Dwarven faction does not make total sense. It just doesn't. I'm just saying. And it is pretty cool if you ever get to Gundabad, to actually be able to take back that city. It's nice. It's awesome. And, I do enjoy playing as them, but they do have some pretty major flaws. Especially in terms of, like, how damn expensive your units are compared to who you're fighting. Because if you were just fighting Rune, that'd be one thing. But you're fighting You are literally fighting the most elite orc faction. You are fighting Gundabad, who has great units from the start. So yeah, it's their units stack up pretty evenly to yours, and it's just kind of a shit show with your money, while they always seem to sort of have the upper hand in terms of numbers. All right, Erluin is next. I think with the ring script, they're an awesome faction. Now, before the ring script came out in whatever version, that might have been 4.5. They would have been like this faction just boring. It'd be poor design rather. This is reserved for one specific faction. Great design though. I love the ring script. Um, I should play more as Erluin because it's actually really fun. But your choices, you can either be boring or be the good guys and go and fight Angmar and do boring shit, or you can be cool and fight all of Eriador on your doorstep. So yeah, it's. I think that the ring script just says it all. It defines this faction, and it's a great script because it's something that Sauron kind of tried to do with Erebor, and it's something I could easily see him doing with or with Erluin. Um, Actually, and also the unit rosters of the dwarves are all outstanding. I just think that this one with the Erebor is overpriced as hell. All right. Next, we're gonna go with the Southern Men or Men of the East factions, and two of them are going into great design. One of them's going into good. Now, Rune, great design because the Dragon Remnants is a nice little neat script. It's a mini script, but it's not your main thing. Your main thing is unifying the tribes, like it is for both Rune and Harad. And I like that you can only build certain there's certain types of your units in your regions where there are gold mines. That's a cool little feature. I think it's a somewhat challenging campaign past eliminating Dorwinion, because actually getting I can't even say that with a straight face. Let me explain that. Once you've eliminated Dorwinion, it's kind of a directionless, monotonous campaign. So that's why it's not perfectly designed. But their units are freaking sweet. They look cool. It's so cool. It's my favorite faction. Actually, Ardenheim are my favorite faction. But it's like one of my favorite factions. I like it. It makes a lot of sense. The way that they set up the tribe script for Rune compared to they shouldn't have done what they did with Harad with Rune, but they did it fine in Harad. But it's done well in Rune as well. I think that you also get a nice variety of units. So you get a complete roster as opposed to some factions which are just all in on infantry or all in on archers. You get I think one of the most well balanced rosters of units in the game, because your archers are pretty good. You get the chariots, which are awesome cavalry. You get the other types of cavalry. You get the horse archers, and you get good javelins and other good skirmishers, along with great infantry. So it's a great it's a great balance of a roster, and just a great faction overall. The Very Active Con, the wizard script is also super fun. It's a way of giving the big middle finger to Sauron and his entire army and entire plan. But I also think that it's a great script just in general. Because if you choose not to, you just made the campaign a million times harder for you, because you will lose your capital in 1 to 2 business days. But also, playing against them, 10 times out of 10, whenever I'm playing Rune or Harad, they just decide to all of a sudden be bad guys, and it's not fun for me. And that's why, again, they're not going into perfect design, because I think Divide and Conquer actually weighted the percentages, which is, I mean, they can do that, but it doesn't make the game any, it'd be cooler if, it was a 50-50 shot every time, whatever they chose. Like Erluin, it always feels like whenever I'm playing in Eriador, they kind of choose to be bad for some reason, but whatever. You know, Oh, Harad. I gotta fucking talk about Harad. Oh god. Um, the Haradrim. The reason they're not in great design is because holy shit, where am I gonna get these settlements from? Where am I gonna get the like whatever number of settlements it costs to get the Trollmen, or even to get the Mumakil? You're never gonna get the Mumakil. Um, yeah, it's that script just feels like impossible to do, especially with the fact that now the Ardenheim don't start out allied to you whenever you play as Harad. You just end up like if you go west towards that one settlement, you are going to go to war with the Ardenheim, and you don't want to do that early. They're stronger than you. It just like and then eventually when you do get around to finally defeating them, if you choose to do that, you are going to have to probably either fight Khan because they decided to turn against you, or Khan just gobbled up all of the rebel settlements in your area, and now you're fucked. You got to go to war with Dol Amroth with like what a couple Beastmasters and your Southerons. That's all. I think it's a dumb kind of idea. I think they just lower the requirement as well. Like you can't get the Hishari ever, pretty much, because I think you need like 20 settlements to get them, and 20 settlements in Dividing Honker basically means you struck gold. Yeah, that's why I don't think that they're like they have major flaws. That's why they're not in the tier of the two other Eastmen factions. All right, now to get into Orc factions. This should not need an explanation. What in the world were they thinking with this with the Remnants of Angmar? It's just a dog shit faction. Oh lord. And there are gonna be people in the comments who are gonna, if anyone actually cares, who are going to defend Angmar being as powerful as it is. Like, well, it makes sense. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense for Angmar to be as powerful as they are. And you might be saying, well, also the Ardenheim aren't in the lore and whatever. In my very sick voice. Yeah, but the Ardenheim are fun. There's nothing fun about the remnants of Angmar. You basically just walk into an army whenever you're playing against them, and I played a lot of the Dunedain, so this might have a little bit of bearing on my choices. But on the auto expansion, I'm not going to talk about the auto expansion for a lot of these factions, because some of them they definitely need it. Like, Rune and Harad need the auto expansion so they actually function. And so does the Orcs of Gundabad. But with Angmar, they don't ever die. And it is impossible to fuck up playing this faction. It is so goddamn easy. You can walk in, you can have the IQ of a kumquat and easily just destroy the entire world on the Remnants of Angmar. It's ridiculous. This faction is beyond broken. They have an amazing unit roster for a faction that like has so many rebel settlements around them. It's just free pickings. It's not like Rune who has one settlement. They have to expand, and they have a decent threat on their door with Dorwinian. No, this is Angmar, where there is nobody for miles. The closest faction who actually hates you is the High Elves, and they're not going to do shit. And if the dwarves, like they usually do, somehow accept the ring script, you have the easiest steam walk of you just steamroll through everyone. Because the Dunedain aren't going to do anything. You just need to take like one settlement from the elves, and they're just going to retreat into Ladras. And then you just roll through Breland and the Shire, make an alliance with the Dunlendings, and you have your campaign right there. It's not hard. It is an easy faction. It is broken as hell. It's not fun to play against. It's too challenging to play against, because it's like with some factions, right? Like the Goblins and Moria, they will send garbage after garbage after garbage units at you. Like units with like 1 attack, 4 defense, and a 0 charge bonus. The difference between between the Angmar is that their garbage units are not complete. Thralls are a halfway decent militia unit. they're almost as good as some of Rune's like first tier units, and Rune is a decent faction in terms of roster. And Angmar just has tons of these guys that they're always sending against you. It's just not fun. That's why I go into what the fuck are they thinking? Because I don't care what the scripts are for this faction. I just hate it. Poor design. Dol Guldur is a poor design faction. Playing as them, it's not nearly as bad as playing against them. Because playing against some of these factions is not super AIDS. But against Dol Guldur, it's like, why do they get Emyn Muil in the auto expansion? It would make 10 times more sense if they got the Brown Lands as a territory instead of Emyn Muil. They're like, oh, I guess an evil faction has to control the spiky rock region, so we're just going to give it to Dol Guldur. No, that doesn't make sense. Like, why? I don't get it. Some of my gripes are just the auto expansion, but it's like, it's just retarded. Yeah, I do like that they get some like runish units. I think it's a fun little Easter egg. Not really Easter egg, but it's a fun little mechanic. I think their scripts are whatever. It's just it's kind of they're a nothing burger. They're just Mordor because you get the Nazgul. They're just Mordor, but in Mirkwood. Speaking of Mordor, I'm going to put them in great design, and people might hate me for this. But I think they're really good design. They're the bad guy faction. They're just send the hordes of hell. We're gonna kill you now. With their large armies, and they do it better than any other faction because they actually have some elite units. They have the Nazgul. They're much more original. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. By the way, if a faction is unoriginal, or there's two factions with very similar designs, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to the one that's in base Third Age. So that's why you see like Dol Amroth is lower than Gondor because it's it's just the Gondor but in Harondor. Why that, and also why Mirkwood is below Mordor because it's just Mordor, but why Dol Guldur is below Mordor. It's just Mordor but in Mirkwood. So yeah, it's kind of a copy paste faction. But Mordor, I just it's more enjoyable. You are a little safe, but actually getting through Gondor is a decent enough, not challenge, but it's a decent enough opponent to the point where if you want to go, like you can play it however you want, but and also without having the Nazgul, it's a decent enough challenge to the point where you're not feeling like, well, I just wasted 2 hours of my life. I could have done this on any difficulty and the same result would have happened. But it's not hard enough to the point where you're like, well, I just wasted 2 hours of my life and I did nothing. So I think that Mordor has that really nice balance. I do like the Nazgul returning scripts with you only starting with 1 out of the 6 that you originally get. But it's a fun time. It's a fun faction, and they set out what they did to do. I can't consciously not put them in great design. Speaking of other great design, Snow Orcs. Gundabad's a good design. It just is. Like it's cool because you're the Ardenaim of the North. You have no allegiance to anyone whenever you play as them. And playing against them is hard, but it doesn't feel impossible. Unless you're the Anduin, but that's more on the design of the Anduin rather than the design of Gundabad. Because if you play as the Woodland Realm against them, it's hard but not impossible. If you play as Erebor, as long as you get a few rebel settlements or you actually know where those fucking rebel settlements are, it's hard but not impossible to play against them. But yeah, they're a fun faction to play as, and also their units just look cool. It's a nice roster, a very elite roster, but you do have the subjugation mechanic in which you can just recruit evil guys, or recruit other evil minions, of other evil orcs to be on your side or force them to be there. Next is Isengard, another great design. They actually kind of nailed it with these 3 factions. They're really well designed. They don't feel like garbage to play against. Because if you're the only people who are really playing against Isengard is Rohan and Endwaith, In Rohan, you can just steamroll them, and in a way, they actually pose a challenge because they've actually gotten some settlements under their belt by the time you get to them. I guess Lothlorien as well, but I digress. It's a cool faction. You know, Saruman is awesome. The script is cool with him with the ring. It's a fun script. It does the end script, which they re-implemented, also is really funny. I really like the end script, even if it means that I absolutely get destroyed. I enjoy playing as Isengard. I enjoy playing against them. They're not completely aids to play against. And it's just a well-designed faction. I mean, we all get that feeling. Isengard, it's the fan favorite evil faction. Like it's one of the favorite. Like, everyone likes playing as the good factions a lot of the time. I enjoy playing as a lot of evil factions, but it's the fan favorite evil faction. It's the one of the two factions that the former developer or former head of the developing team actually liked. That was evil. So yeah. All right, finally, Goblins of Moria. Neither good nor bad, because they, when you play as them, you have your hordes of boring Snaga, and it's kind of funny for like 10 turns, and it's cute. You got all your aids. You can't ever speed up battles, but it's also just monotonous as hell. And then it's the reverse monotony of Anduin, in which Anduin you're unmonotonous because you're always on the defense, but with Goblins of Moria it's monotonous because you're always on the attack. It's similar to Dunland, but just a little better because you do have a challenge when Khazad-dûm eventually comes to you. I think it's enough said about them though, but this is my tier list for uh for Divide and Conquer. God, I'm fucking cooked. Once again, these are the best designed factions in the game. Anyone who wants to argue with me about that, feel free, but I don't care. This is a horribly designed faction. The Remnants of Angmar it's just dumb on all levels. It's just dumb. And if we get, I'm going to ask for an impossible view count. I will do a full live stream of the campaign in multiple parts. If we get 15,000 likes on this video, I do not have 15,000 subscribers, but if you assholes share this enough to the point where you cause me this much pain and you've stuck around, I will legitimately do like a Remnants of Angmar campaign if we do 15,000 likes on this video. But anyways, that's all. I'm Wolf Left. I will see you all next time. Bye.